Hey folks, it's Rob. Welcome back. We're continuing our series today on the Monstrous Compendium Appendix for the Mystara Ascending for 1994 from TSR. Uh, Today, you can see we have a two-page spread. We're on page 88 and 89. We have plant, dangerous. That's right. The dangerous plants. Some things I will point out looking at this. First off, notice how here at the top that the border isn't lined up. This is actually lined up in the print copy in my hand, but it is not here showing the two pages together. Now, another artistic point. This looks like this is a messed up scan, but this is actually what looks like, because this plant is firing little tiny needles, and that is hidden behind the text. So they've integrated that. It may make it difficult to read, but they have integrated that over here. And you can also just see slightly a difference in color tone between these two, where we can compare like for like. You can see the top bar here is a bit darker than it is here on page 89, where this, we can actually see a bit deeper tone in the red and the green as opposed to over here, because these are functionally identical on either side and in the print copy. And again, I don't know what happened here. Like, the picture is lined up here as I would expect. There actually is a scroll bar here actually obscuring just the very bottom of this first picture here. But that does go to the actual bottom of the page in the book in my hand. So that literally goes all the way down. And yeah, the this the vampire rose over here is getting to work, and we're not going to talk too much about the subject matter here, but again, it's much paler than what I'm holding. The reds are deeper, the greens are deeper, the browns are deeper. The whole thing is just much more faded or overexposed in the scan than it is in my copy. Now, suppose we'll get into it. I know for a fact I've run into some of these in different modules. I'll see if I can recall properly. But hey, if you can remember, go ahead and make your comments. I'm always happy to see your comments below. So let's see. Should we do the comparison stats, or should we just read one and then do the stat block, and then let's do comparison stats. So first off, we have the amber lotus. Then we have an archer bush, the grab grass, not crab, grab grass, and then vampire rose, right? So amber lotus is temperate to tropical forests, jungles, and swamps. Its climate. They are rare. They are solitary. They're active in the day. Their diet is oddly enough soil and water, being a plant, but not a carnivorous one. It'll be the exception here, unfortunately. They are non-intelligent, and that is going to be the case of all of these creatures, that they are non-intelligent. Amber lotuses don't offer any treasure. They are, in what sense they have alignment, these are all neutral, right? Purely neutral. They are plants. Think of what motivates a plant, right? Living, striving, reproducing, really, is what a plant motivates a plant. Despite being solitary, they are 3d6 appearing. Armor class 9. Movement, none. It's a plant. Hit dice. It's at 1 through 4 hit points each. So not that robust, but robust enough, To hit AC 0, nil, it doesn't have an attack. No damage, because it doesn't have an attack, but it does have sleep pollen as a special attack. Special defense is nil. Magic resistance, nil. Size, well, tiny, 6-inch diameter. Somehow it has morale at steady 12. I don't know what you would do if you break the morale of an amber lotus. But we have a morale mechanic for it. And XP value 15. The archer bush is found in temperate plains or forests. They are rare. They are, again, solitary. They are active in the day. They are carnivores, however. Non-intelligent. Treasure type V. Alignment neutral. Again, they're plants. Number appearing 1d20. That's quite a wide range. Armor class 7, so a slightly tougher bush. Movement 3, so it actually does get around a little. Hit dice 2. To hit AC 019, it has an attack, 1 attack, which is a 1d4 thorn spray. No special attack, no special defense, no magic resistance. It's small, about 3 foot tall. It's a shrub. It's a bush, right? Morale 12, steady, because it can move. I imagine it might try to flee or back off or break off, right? XP value 35. Grab grass, found in non-Arctic plains and hills. They're fairly common. They are solitary, active during the day. They are carnivores. They are non-intelligent. They're no treasure, purely neutral plant creature. It appears as a patch. It's grass. Armor class 9, movement 3, so I guess it moves despite it being grass. Well, I mean, it is grabby grass, but I mean it can move places instead of just like grabbing at you. Hit dice is 1 per 5 foot square. So if you're doing a 10 foot by 10 foot square, that's actually 4, right? To hit AC 0 is nil. It has no attacks, but it does special damage / attack. It has a special attack of grab. No special defense, no magic resistance. Its size is small to medium, 3 to 5 foot tall. Think of overgrown grass, right? Steady morale again at 12 and 35 XP. That'd be per 5 foot square. Vampire Rose, temperate or subtropical swamps, plains, and ruins. They are rare, they are solitary, they are active at any time, they are carnivores, they are non-intelligent with no treasure, they are purely neutral, 1d8 appear, their armor class is 7. Again, roses, a little more tougher, right? Movement 3, again, this can get around slightly. Hit dice 4. To hit AC 17, damage per attack has 1 attack, which its attack is 1d8 for a thorn lash. So it'll literally lash you with a branch of thorns. Special attack is blood drain because it's a vampire rose. No special defense, no magic resistance. Size small, again 3 to 4 foot tall. It's like a rose bush, right? Morale steady at 12 and 175 XP when you defeat it. Let's move into the text block. On page 88, Mystara is home to a number of hostile plants. Most are innocent in appearance, and a majority of characters will not be able to identify them. Characters who encounter a hostile plant gain the ability to identify that species in the future. If desired, a DM may allow druids the ability to identify dangerous plants before stumbling into them. This should involve an ability check or other die roll. The identification process should not be error-free. As a guideline, while most druids should be able to identify such plants with a wisdom check made at 50%. Okay. I guess in a modern way, I would roll that as disadvantage if you use that kind of thing. Disadvantage, advantage is not really a role mechanic found in 20th century Dungeons & Dragons, but it is one I actually have taken a bit of a liking to. Advantage, if you're not familiar, is you roll 2 dice and you select the better roll. Disadvantage is you roll 2 dice and you select the worse roll. But in this case, it's advising you to do a wisdom check made at 50%. So, it would take the wisdom of the character and divide it in half. Now, a druid is in the cleric category, really. So you would expect to see a fair bit of wisdom. But again, your character stats are going to run from basically 3 to 18. So the maximum would be 18. So you're rolling against a 9. It's less than 50% chance. And that's the best case scenario. In addition, PCs with herbalism proficiency may be able to identify such plants with proficiency check made at 50%. Now, your proficiencies are based on your stat or relevant attributes. They use non-weapon skills, which are found in 2nd edition, which is what this rule set was made for. And so it's still not great, but it's better than the straight attribute check. But it depends what the herbalism proficiency is based off of. I haven't looked at the 2nd edition rules book more than a moment in more than 20 years. It's either going to be wisdom or it's going to be intelligence. I'm not 100%. If it's based on intelligence and your wisdom score is higher, it may not help you to be checking against your herbalism proficiency at 50% instead of your wisdom score. If that is the case, I may suggest that you use whichever is better if you're going to go that way. Again, your game. You figure out how hard it is to identify these things. Of these, I would argue that grabgrass is something that travelers may be aware of if they travel off-road on a regular basis. Like, say, if you had a group of nomads, they'd probably be able to identify grabgrass if it's a fairly common thing in the area. But if it's not, then they wouldn't be able to know about it because they've not encountered it before. Let's get into the actual plant monsters here. So, amber lotus flower. These flowers look like golden water lilies, as large as sunflowers, growing in calm ponds or swamps. Some varieties grow on vines that creep up tree trunks. Their attractive appearance and serene setting is deceptive to the viewer, giving no clues to the flower's true nature. The amber lotus flower responds to ground vibrations. When a creature approaches within 10 feet of the plant, its blossoms open, each spraying a cloud of pollen 40 feet in diameter. Any individual within the flower's pollen cloud must make a successful saving throw versus poison or fall fast asleep for 44 turns. So that's 40 to 160 minutes. Nothing can wake the victim sooner. I would argue that a neutralized poison spell would allow you to wake the victim sooner. But again, you can do this your way, right? You're the DM. The flowers can spray a fresh burst of pollen every 3d4 rounds. Creatures that are resistant to sleep and charm spells, such as elves, half-elves, and pegators, are equally resistant to the pollen of the amber lotus flower. So that's something. Amber lotus flowers get their nutrition in the same way as normal plants. No unusual conditions are required for its health. The pollen spray is a defense mechanism to protect the flower from potential threats. Amber lotus flowers are often found growing with other deadly plants such as vampire roses, archer bushes, or killer trees. The amber lotus flower enjoys a symbiotic relationship with these and other floral predators. The amber lotus flower incapacitates a victim. The other plants then kill it, and all benefit from fertilization resulting from the victim's remains. Some humans and other intelligent creatures may cultivate this flower for protection around homes, forbidden places, temples, and so forth. Druids and elves sometimes use this amber lotus flower to guard sacred worship sites and are rumored to have somehow train the plants to spray pollen only on strangers who trespass. The sleep pollen is prized by alchemists for sleep powders and even poisonous sleep salve that can be smeared on weapon. A dozen amber lotus flowers are required to make enough sleep poison to fill one vial. Such a vial contains enough salve to coat one short sword or the equivalent. That closes page 88. We're moving now to the facing page on page 89 for those following along at home. Archer bush. Archer bushes have sickly green and brown leaves, stunted trunks, and thorny brown branches. They resemble common wild bramble bushes. Archer bushes are commonly found in woodlands, scrub areas, and occasionally in mountains. Archer bushes are carnivorous. They attack by shooting a spray of small thorns at a victim, inflicting 1d4 hit points of damage per spray. The range of the spray is 20 feet. Each bush can fire up to 3 such sprays per day. The archer bush can uproot itself and move towards stricken prey. So there's that movement we were talking about. The trunk of an archer bush appears to be buried within a 3-foot high pile of leaves and twigs. This debris actually conceals a huge mouth filled with hard thorns that are used to devour disabled prey. The mouth is never used in combat. Archer bushes sense targets by ground vibrations, thus they can fire at invisible or otherwise camouflaged victims. Only creatures who approach in flight are spared an attack. Clumps of archer bushes commonly fire in concert as if cooperating in a primitive way, but this cooperation is based mostly on instinct. Encountering a single archer bush is rarely a great threat. A group of archer bushes, however, can be deadly. Druids sometimes cultivate and train archer bushes to guard their holiest sites. Moving below the picture here, which you can see what they're talking about. This has got a thorny main trunk with this kind of gap of a mouth, and yes, it's got brownish leaves, and you can see it firing its little thorns. Right, the mushroom is just for comparison, I suppose, for decorative purposes. And there is actually a rock here, which is almost lost in the scan. So, just a bit of interest, I suppose. Grabgrass. Ranging 3 to 5 feet in height, grabgrass looks like ordinary tall grass. Grabgrass is able to move and often gives the impression of swaying in a breeze. The grass attacks by wrapping long tendrils around unsuspecting victims and strangling them. The strangling process drains 1 point of constitution from a victim each round. A victim who reaches 0 constitution dies. The decomposing body then feeds the plant. Victims who escape the grass regain 1 point of constitution per turn of rest. That's every 10 minutes. A victim can break free from grabgrass with a successful bend bars roll. That's going to be functionally a strength check. Grabgrass patch has 1 hit die for every 5-foot square of area, and each hit die is worth a full 8 hit points. Okay, so why didn't we just say 8 hit points per area instead of using the hit die? If you're not going to roll, I really don't think you should mention it as a hit die. Okay. A 5-foot by 5-foot square grass is mutilated into death for every 8 points of damage done to the grass. Since the grass sways of its own volition, PCs looking in the direction of the grass may notice it swaying in absence of the breeze. The DM may allow an ability check against intelligence or wisdom, whichever is higher, in order for the character to notice that something is not quite right. And that seems fair. I would also say with if you're going to be a generous DM, perhaps for example, the amber lotus flower has encountered a victim before that is currently unconscious on the ground, right? But or maybe it recovers but then collapses again under an puff, right? But if you want to be merciless, please feel free. It's very old school of you. Vampire Rose. Vampire roses appear as bushes of white roses of extraordinary beauty. A single rose bush has 4 hit dice. An average of 2d12 roses are on each bush, although the number of blooms does not affect the bush's abilities. Despite their innocuous appearance, vampire roses can uproot themselves and move about slowly in search of prey. The thorny stalks of the vampire rose are whipped at victims to inflict 1d8 points of damage. The thorns are hollow, and once the stalk is struck successfully, the vampire rose automatically drains blood in subsequent rounds, causing 1d8 points of damage each round. While the thorns perform this gruesome task, the rose blossoms emit a hypnotic fragrance. Victims must make a successful saving throw versus spell, or lose all will to fight, allowing the plant to drain blood until the victim dies. A clear-headed victim can break the vampire rose's grip with a successful open doors roll. Freeing oneself causes an additional 1d8 points of damage as the victim's flesh is ripped by the thorns. If any portion of a vampire rose is successfully severed while it drains victim's blood, the flower lets out a horrifying shriek and blood sprays out of the cut stalk. Any character of less than 5th level who witnesses this for the first time must make a saving throw versus poison or be struck with fear as per the spell. Subsequent attacks on the flower have the same effect, but a viewer who has succeeded in a saving throw against the fear effect need not roll again. After a victim is completely drained of blood, the vampire rose's petals turn from pure white to blood red. Vampire roses are often found in old graveyards. Not surprisingly, some of the flowers can be found near crypts of vampires. Fun, huh? Yeah. It's a perfectly good illustration here as well. You get the white flowers towards the bottom, kind of pinkish ones as we move up, and then definitely red ones above as it basically drains this buck of its life force, right? And it's probably not really struggling because it's kind of hypnotized into not doing so. And yeah, fun, right? Let's do one more page. There we go. Let's move that down to one page because I'm not going to do both those guys. There we go. Page 90. The Plasm. It comes in 2 flavors. The scan's actually quite good on the page this time. Happy to say. Yeah. That's fairly representative. Right. Climate terrain, ethereal plane. Right. So that's a bit different, right? The ethereal plane. Ethereal plane is functionally parallel to the prime material plane, kind of a different dimension of our existence. Frequency, very rare in both cases. The organization, solitary in both cases. Their activity cycles, any in both cases. Their diet is elemental matter, average intelligence, 8. So slightly dull average human person. No treasure. They are both chaotic evil. 1d10 normal ones appear. 1d4 giant ones appear. In my copy, someone has actually circled the 0 for armor class. And for the giant one, that is -4. And again, this is a descending armor class system. Movement, 12 in both cases. The normal ones have 6 hit dice, while the giant ones have 12 hit dice. To hit AC 0 is 15 for a normal Plasm, but for a giant Plasm, 9. They both get 2 attacks. The normal ones get 2d6 for 2 claw attacks, while the giants get 3d6 for 2 claw attacks. Special attacks is an elemental cloud in both cases. They both have special defenses at AC below. No magic resistance. The normal ones are medium, 6 foot tall, while the large ones are twice the size at 12 foot tall. Normal ones have an elite morale at 13, while giants have champion morale at 15. The normal ones are worth 3,000 XP, while the giant ones are worth 9,000 XP. Plasms are hideous skeletons composed of solid ether and raw elemental matter. They are usually encountered on the ethereal plane or their respective elemental planes, but can be brought to the prime material plane through planar gates. 4 types of plasms exist: earth, air, fire, and water. Plasms are either human-sized or giant. Fire plasms appear as charred skeletons with flames constantly playing across the surface of the bones. The bones of a water plasm appear to be solid water, though the bones seem to bend and waver as the thing moves. Air plasms are transparent skeletons whose forms are discernible only when they move. Earth plasms appear most like normal skeletons, except for the unsightly clumps of gooey black dirt that hang from the bleached bones. All plasms have glowing yellow eyes with a sinister glare. Plasms are able to communicate with any intelligent creature, and each type has its own distinctive voice. Earth plasms talk with a deep rumble. Air plasms practically whistle their words. Fire plasms hiss and crackle. Water plasms talk and gurgles. Combat. Plasms attack opponents on sight using their two clawed hands. A successful attack by a human-sized plasm inflicts 2d6 points of damage. A successful attack by a giant-sized plasm causes 3d6 points of damage. Plasms are immune to poison and non-magical weapons. Magical weapons have limited effectiveness on the creatures. Each blow from a magical weapon causes only its magical damage, ignoring the normal weapon damage for any strength bonuses. For example, a +5 Holy Avenger would only inflict 5 points of damage on a plasm. On any plane, except the ethereal and creature's own home plane, a plasm loses 1 hit die per round from energy drain, vanishing into nothingness when dead. However, a plasm can feed on its own element, and regenerates damage at the rate of 1 hit point per round when feeding on that element. A feeding plasm can do nothing else that round. So they lose a hit die per round from energy drain, but can feed themselves 1 hit point per round if they do nothing else other than consume the relevant matter. So it's still not viable for them to exist for a long time outside their home plane in the ethereal, even if they're constantly feeding on the necessary material, because they are losing a hit die, which is, multiple hit points usually, and only regenerating 1 hit point. Any magical attack based on the plasm's elements, such as casting a fireball at the fire plasm, causes a plasm to gain hit dice, along with the appropriate changes to THAC0, hit points, and saving throws. The plasm gains a number of hit dice equal to the caster's level or the level of the spell casting of the magical item. This bonus lasts 3d6 rounds. Example, a fireball cast by a 5th level mage gains a fire plasm a bonus of 5 hit dice. The same spell cast from the wand of fireballs would add 6 hit dice. Once per turn, a plasm can spend 10 of its hit points to create an elemental cloud. This cloud is 30 feet in diameter and is centered on the plasm. Except for the plasm, any creature within that cloud suffers 20 points of damage per round. A successful saving throw versus breath weapon halves the cloud's damage. The cloud lasts 1d6 rounds. Normally a plasm uses this attack form when fleeing, though it has gained extra hit dice as a result of opponent's foolish element-based attacks. It may choose to spend its hit points with very little provocation. Habitat/Society. Plasms exist as renegades on the elemental planes, refusing to subordinate themselves to any of the elemental lords. Normal elementals hate plasms and attack them on sight. Plasms have no society and no order. They come and go as they wish, cooperating or betraying others as desired. A new plasm is born when an elemental storm gets too close to the border of the elemental plane. An ethereal storm gets too close to the border of an elemental plane. The storm extracts some of the material and fuses it with ether into a plasm. Ecology. Plasms, being extraplanar creatures, have no place in the environments of the prime material plane, but can serve as destructive forces. Plasms derive sustenance from bits of their respective elemental matter. So, kind of limited, in that it can't really spend lots of time in our world, even if it were to just walk through a planar gate. but it can certainly cause damage while it's here. And I'm not sure how you would use it. Maybe it's summoned by a wizard. Maybe it's a random encounter at a naturally occurring planar gate. A few of those do exist in the Mystara setting. But otherwise, elementals hate them. Unless you're going to be on an elemental plane or in the ethereal plane, this is a very limited use. But it's neat. Anyhow, please, your thoughts below. I'm happy to hear them. And if there's anything else, you have in mind, I'm happy to hear it. But thank you very much for watching and listening today. And I hope you join us again next week. Have a great night. Goodbye.